Now we will try to build this dashboard that you see in front of you piece by piece. So what I have done is I've created a separate dashboard page here where we initially actually had dragged all the components that we needed. But for this dashboard we don't need all these other components, so we'll just simply uh, keep the combo box, the radio button, and get rid of the other ones. So I selected all and pressed the delete key to delete the remaining components. Now this control has some default values in it. So if I wanted to bring information from Excel, what I need to do is first identify my data source, which is an Excel file, and a connection. So the first step is create a connection to the Excel file. Now I can go to it, I can say go to actions and say manage data source connections, and in this case it shows up. I select the Excel as a data source and I create a connection handle. Since this connection is already created, I'm just creating a duplicate entry here, and this is the path for the Excel file. And you can pick what your version of Excel is and click on add new entry. Once your connection is added, you can reference this Excel file using this connection handle. So let us try to populate this combo bar, this radio button. So we need to populate this, and for this presentation we have pre-collected some of the SQL queries that we used in the dashboard to save some time. So in the first one, what we are doing is we are trying to show the year column, and what we are doing is select distinct year from the emp data worksheet. So the way you access your data from Excel is you simply reference your worksheet within a square bracket, and you should append it with a dollar sign, and you write a simple select statement, select distinct values of the year column, so it will get all these values and get only the distinct values. So 2000 won't be 2000 if it is multiple times repeated, so it won't show up. It will show up only once when you say distinct. And sometimes you might have blank rows in your Excel, so for that purpose we have a clause saying where year is not null. So let's do this. Let's copy this, and I'll right click on this control and say data source, and I select my connection HR employee data, and I click on the SQL tab. So once I click on the SQL tab, you can paste the SQL or you can write your SQL, and when I click OK, so what happens is it instantly brought all the values from the Excel file, and that you can use it here. So so this is, so there are some things you can set. Now there is no radio control selected, so the first thing you can do is you can right click on it, go to edit properties, and you can define a default value for this control. So every control, HTML control, you can define a default value. So in this case I'm just gonna say make the default selection to be 2000. So every time when the dashboard launches, it will always have a default value. And I need to change this title, so I'll just simply double click on it and say year, click OK. Now I need the same control for the location and the department, so I'll just simply do a duplicate and make it vertical, and I'll right click on it and change the data source in the SQL. So in this case I need all the distinct location values which I can get from this query. and I need one more for the department, so I'll right click, create duplicate, and change the title, and now change the source. And you can make it a little brighter if the font is too light. Let's make it. And the next thing we'll add is the grid on the top. So what we're trying to add is is this grid. So let me open this in a separate so we have a reference. And let's go back here. So for the grid we have this SQL query. So basically what it's doing is it's creating a big union query from by summing the base salary, the bonus, overtime. So it gives an aggregate view of the total dollars that the company is spending on the payroll. So if your Excel spreadsheet is defined like this, you have your base salary, bonus, overtime commission, and total compensation. You have the sick days and so on. So all these numerical values that shows some number, you can aggregate them and show them like a concise grid, like in this fashion. And the way you can do it is through the SQL query, and it might look intimidating, but it's very simple to understand. What we're doing is we're simply breaking each column into a separate query, and we're saying, okay, get me the total salary. I'm using the sum aggregate, and then I'm getting the bonus, I'm getting the overtime separately, and then I'm creating a union query, big query. So I'll just grab this query, and I need to get the grid component. So I'll go to container boxes, I'll grab this grid component, and I'll right click on it. I say data source. I make sure I have the connection, right connection. I click on SQL prompt and I'll paste it. So now when I paste it and I click OK, it brings all the values. So basically this shows me the total values for all the years. It's not currently, it's not filtered for any of the particular year, but I want it to be filtered. So if the user selects any particular year, it will reflect the corresponding value. So I'll right click on it, I'll say data source, and I'll click on the show filter prompts. I'm seeing all these filters. Now this is where the importance of naming the actual controls properly will give you the benefit of identifying and using them in the SQL query. So let us just rename this for our benefit. So I'll just go back, close this, click on edit properties, and I'll rename this to year. Click OK, close these. I also define the default value for location, and the same thing for department. I'll say accounting, and you can have any value as a default value. So I can say maybe IT in this case, and in this case I'll say the department as the close it. And now I can go back to this grid and associate the year filter on this. So I'll right click and say data source, and in this case I'll just say where year equals I have the radio D1, and I can select this and add a selected filter. Now since this is a numerical column, so every control you can edit the properties for the year, because since it's a numerical column I don't need to prefix the value with a single quote. So I'll just remove the single quote and apply it. So now I go back to the grid data source and I can say where year equal to, I can pick this, and when you select it and add selected filter, it gets added automatically here. So now I can take this and apply it to all the union queries. And now when I click OK, so this is now dependent on the year column, year radio